Good morning, guys. So I harvested quite a few green beans this morning. I got my very first zucchinis. These zucchini plants look absolutely amazing. So I don't know if you remember me telling you or not about the terracotta steaks and the sunflowers and the differences, but this sunflower here is by far my best sunflower. I actually put terracotta steaks over with my zucchini plants as well, and they are by far the best zucchini plants I think I've ever grown. They are just very full and beautiful. I do direct sow, which that does help. I have noticed throughout the years, but I've also put these near my pumpkins. So I think it's going to help quite a bit. I've noticed that a lot of those vining varieties, they really just like to have water on hand no matter what, because they do a lot of growing within a day. I really noticed that to get the plant's full potential, those really help. My husband bought me another 8-pack, and I actually need to drink more wine because I don't have enough wine bottles anymore. I was saving up wine bottles throughout the winter, so I'm gonna have to get on that. But today we are hopping into all things fall. I know, it's crazy to say, especially you guys will see this the last week of July. As I'm filming it, it is July 21st, so I am filming this video quite a bit in advance before you guys see it, but this is a subject I know you guys wanted to see, need to see. So some of you guys that aren't in my zone, you may have already been thinking of this. Ones that may be more south of me, you may have a few more weeks before you really need to jump on it. But today we are starting to gear into all things fall. I did buy a few more seeds, so I was actually just going to talk through everything I am planting this year, some of the new things I got, and then we are going to plant a few things. Yesterday, I actually went through the garden and I went ahead and tore down some things. I went ahead and tore out my loofah. So if you guys did not watch my garden tour last week, I kind of explained how even though my loofah plant is doing well, I did not get those seeds to germinate quite in time. I actually probably should have started them inside probably 4 to 6 weeks early. It's just a very long crop, and even if it were to set fruit, I wouldn't be able to get a loofah because you have to wait for it to set fruit and then fully dry. And as of today, I think I'm sitting at like 86, 85 days before my first expected average frost. So I wasn't going to be able to get loofah anyway. So I want to go ahead and plant more cucumbers over there. And then I also tore out a handful of sunflowers, and I tore out all of my Amish paste tomatoes. So my Amish paste tomatoes have just been a long story. I kind of explained this in the garden tour as well. But with them, I actually started to notice that if the fruit wasn't prematurely cracking, it was getting some weird blossom end rot that I've never really seen before. So I don't really know. I just went ahead and tore them out because they weren't going to give me enough anyway. So you guys will kind of see once we get over there. My whole thought process behind this is I may have gotten 10 to 20 good tomatoes off of that whole strip there. It's a 16 by 5-foot strip. And to me, that's not well worth the space, especially in my garden. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to plant some more pole green beans, and then I'm also going to plant some snow peas over there. So that's actually going to be really nice, and I'm looking forward to going ahead and planting that. I am starting to get a ton of tomatoes, if you couldn't see. All right, so we are going to be talking all things pretty much frost hardy, and what that means is plants can survive a few very mild frosts, but then once they go into a deep freeze or any type of extended frost, typically they will die. One plan I have for this year is I am putting up a lot of frost fabric, and I also have solar plastic that I used last year. So I'm actually going to be trying to overwinter quite a few crops. I'm going to be planting quite a few lettuces, broccolis, cabbages, things that can stay in the ground cool, especially carrots. So one thing that's super cool about carrots, if you did not know, definitely I prefer to plant them in the fall. If you did not know, carrots are super cool for this. They can just stay in the ground. Their tops may die off to a point if it gets way too cold, but you can just go harvest them when you need them. The ground acts as its own little refrigerant, and they are so good. By far, last fall were the best tasting carrots I've ever had in my life. Once those vegetables that are meant to survive those light frosts get cool, what actually happens is a sweetness occurs because they have to kind of condense their sugars or store their sugars from the base of the root, and you just get a sweeter crop. So things like kale, cabbage, lettuces, any leafy green, spinach, you will notice will always taste better when it has that really crispness from the cool. So anyway, let's discuss everything I went ahead and got from Botanical Interest. So I have noticed that so far from the seed companies I have bought from, I really like Botanical Interest. I've never had a problem with any of my crops. So with that being said, take that as you will, but I went ahead and just ordered a handful of things from them. I really did not need much. I went ahead and bought some more snap peas because my other variety is like 4 years old now. I did not have good germination the last time. So one thing I'm really excited about that I'm not going to be able to plant this year, and I think this is the only thing. No, I actually have 2 other things in here that I can't plant this year. So let's go ahead and just talk about those first. Okay, so the things that I can't plant this year that I went ahead and bought. So since I'm absolutely obsessed with these mammoth sunflowers, I started researching what sunflowers are bigger than mammoth sunflowers, and I came across the Mongolian giant. These can average a good 14 to 15 feet high. So I am really pumped about growing these next year. I probably could get away with trying this year, but I know I probably wouldn't be able to get like a good bloom or anything, and I don't really want to waste the seeds. And then one thing I have been just completely missing, I've been wanting to grow this for years now, to make like different tinctures and stuff, is yarrow. So I went ahead and got my hands on some yarrow. I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce this, but the underscore name is Blue Planet. I just thought this looked absolutely beautiful, and I wanted to grow it next year. This one was like a really spur of the moment. Then I got these atomic red carrots. I got more Devanders as well. You know, can never have enough carrots. I actually think I'm going to plant quite a few carrots today. I bought some more onions for next year as well. Some more chamomile for next year. I got this little thank you packet. I got one of these last fall, and I actually overwintered this lettuce, and it was like one of the first things in the garden in the spring, which was really, really nice. And then I have, this is why I ordered seeds, guys. So I follow Botanical Interest on Instagram, and they posted this broccoli, and it was just so beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I really don't need broccoli seeds, especially after counting all the seeds I saved on my broccoli plant. But look at this purple broccoli. You can't tell me that that is just not beautiful and that I have to not try. I mean, I have to try it. So it's called Burgundy. It's really pretty, purple variety. I'll post up their picture somewhere on the screen of what they posted because it looks beautiful. It kind of reminds me of like a peacock of broccoli. Very, very pumped about this. I need to keep that one out. And then I also bought beets. So I am someone, guys, that has personally never ate a beet in her life. So same thing with radishes. This year I actually grew radishes in the springtime. Didn't really do much with them, but I am also going to be growing radishes this fall, winter as well. So one reason why I bought beets is because I plan to actually dehydrate the beets and make beet powder. So instead of eating them in whole form, I'm going to go ahead and powder them down and then just throw them into smoothies and different like sauce recipes and stuff. So yeah, either way, let's jump into the other things. I do have some pole beans here because I am going to plant some of those on the trellis like I told you. So some other things I am going to do. I'm not going to be planting more pink celery, but I already have pink celery in the garden, and I keep forgetting to talk to you guys about it. I have had this planted since I think February, maybe January. This is one of the first things I started this year, and literally for some reason I always skip over it during my garden tours because it's in one of the beds with my peppers and I just don't even think about it. So I'll definitely show you guys that. It's still on the smaller side. One thing that's really cool about celery is it is frost tolerant, so I'm going to be keeping this in my garden to see how big it will get. I probably will harvest a few, but I do have like 7 over there. Problem with planting this in the fall is you almost needed to probably start it a month ago. You could probably try. I don't know how big it would personally get, but you can harvest celery quite young, so worth a shot. I'm also going to be planting some green onion, collards, which I've never planted collards before. I actually had all intention to plant this in the spring, and then yeah, spring was a hot mess, and I honestly don't think I'm going to be planting a lot of cool varieties in the spring to come, just because our springs are all over the place and can get super hot super fast. So for me, it's just not really worth the time or the effort anymore. So I'm planting a lot to overwinter in hopes that it will make me through that early part of spring regardless. So I am planting collards. We got some spinach. We got some more snap peas. I actually got this broccoli variety from Baker Creek that is like a baby broccoli. I love like the little baby broccolis you can buy broccolini from the grocery store. It's like one of my absolute favorites. Kohlrabi. I'm really excited for kohlrabi. That was one of those things I had to pull early just because everything was bolting like crazy in my garden. We have some iceberg lettuce, which I still have not officially grown well. So iceberg lettuce is one of those really finicky ones where it's very thin, and since it's such a thin green, if it gets too hot, it's just kind of a hot mess. And last year when I tried growing this the first time during fall, one thing I did wrong last year during fall is I planted out most of my seeds the very first week of July and then planted them out in the garden the first week of August, and it just stayed so hot for so long here that almost everything was bolted or done by the time winter came. I did get a few cabbages to overwinter and whatnot, but really I did not get much. So I'm trying again. Of course, I have more broccoli, cabbage. I also have red cabbage in here as well. I really had good success with my cabbage though in the spring. So I think one part that has to do with is I had it in my insect netted hoop house, and that actually gets a lot of afternoon shade, which really helps. Since it was in the insect netted hoop house, I didn't really have any problems with pests. I am going to grow some cilantro, romaine lettuce, radishes, mustard, and some bok choy. So that kind of sums up a lot of things. I'm majority planting a ton of lettuce, a ton of broccoli, and bok choy. So if you've never had bok choy and you like cabbage, but I mean, you don't even really have to like cabbage. It has a slight cabbagey flavor, but not strong. But what I really like about bok choy is it just has this nice crispness that is just delicious in stir fries. Like I love me some bok choy. Like I am so sad for people who've never tried it before. So if you've never tried bok choy before, I definitely suggest it. Okay, so one thing I do not have set out are my cucumber seeds. So I have this is a photo holder, like a 4x6 photo holder. Michael's had them on a killer sale for like 14 bucks. So I bought one and I really like it because then I can just kind of section everything out. Like this is all tomatoes. These are all my peppers. I have one for herbs. During like seed starting time, I had like direct sow, start 8 to 10 weeks out, just so I was able to just really not have to think about it. I could organize everything once and then just kind of go with it. Let's see. You know, I'm just not a big fan of kale. I was like, maybe I'll plant some more kale. But I was like, maybe I won't. Where is the cucumbers? Oh, maybe I'll actually, I need to pull one of my zinnia plants. I totally forgot to do this yesterday. One of my zinnia plants got powdery mildew out of all things. So I actually stumbled across this information, and I don't know if I've ever really heard it before. So this year especially, I've been having a harder time with diseased plants. I've been having to cut off a lot of disease. Well, the one thing that is really different about this year in particular is the fact that I'm doing majority of my watering at night instead of in the morning. And then I randomly saw this tidbit of information that was talking about that if you water at night, sometimes the plants don't have enough time to dry out, and that can actually cause a lot more fungal problems than not. So, found that very interesting because that has been my main issue this year, and that has been the main thing that has changed. So, found that to be very interesting. I have no idea where my cucumber seeds are. They actually might be on the counter. I'm gonna go find these seeds. I think they're on my kitchen counter, and then we'll plant some things. Alright, so this is everything I'm getting started today. This is not everything I am growing this year. So just know, like, things like bok choy take 45 days. Things like beets take 48. Radishes, like 50. Mustard, 30 to 50. So there's a lot of really quick varieties that you do not need to start yet. These from seed, I am going to go ahead and soil block and go ahead and put downstairs with my lights just for probably a week or two till they sprout, and then I will direct sow them. So all of these will be started with lights, and then I'm direct sowing all of these into the garden today. So direct sowing some carrots. I want to do some more pole beans. These are not frost hardy, neither are peas. But if you want to do peas, they like cold weather, but they don't really withstand a lot compared to some of these varieties, so just know that. I am also going to be doing some cucumber, and that is another variety that definitely is not frost hardy, but I definitely have enough time to still plant it. Some green onion, and then I'm also doing some cilantro, just because I have a shady area that will do pretty well with this. I probably wouldn't do this quite yet just because it's getting super hot still. I mean, we are just getting into August, so this is going into a shady area that it should be good. We'll see. And then, of course, carrot. Okay, so it's been a few hours and it got very, very loud outside this morning. So I was going to talk through some of the seed stuff, and then I was like, there's no way anyone would be able to understand me. It was so loud. But one thing I did want to mention, you may have seen me cutting some yogurt lids. If you save like yogurt containers or yogurt lids, those work really well as seed markers. You can just cut them into strips real fast, and it's a great way to recycle that little thing. But either way, it's afternoon now, and I kind of need to get my butt in gear. I obviously have a ton of tomatoes here. I do not need to do all of these today. There's about like, they're down that still need to ripen a little bit. But what I do with my tomatoes, I've mentioned this in one other video before, but I'm going to mention it again just because some people don't see every video, and I think this is pretty good information if you plan on doing any tomato preserving. So if you're going to be making sauce, it's kind of a pain to make sauce multiple times. Honestly, I personally don't want to do it more than twice over the summer. I think last year I did it 3 or 4 times, and it was kind of obnoxious. I have a bigger freezer downstairs now. I'm hoping to do most of my tomato processing all at once. And one way I do that is I simply core every single tomato. I wash them, core them, throw them in freezer bags, and then I put them in the freezer until I need them. So if you're worried about blanching, one thing you will realize is the skins come right off once the tomatoes have been frozen anyway. And if you use a tomato press as well, honestly, you really don't need to worry about that step, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to do a ton of tomatoes. Honestly, I'm thinking I'm gonna get like at least 4 or 5 freezer bags full of tomatoes. And then I also need to blanch and freeze all of these lovely green beans. As of this week, the green beans are really starting to just produce like crazy. So that's really, really exciting. I'm gonna dry some mint, do some various other things, but yeah, it's kind of the tedious side of having to make sure your harvest is not going to waste. I also wanted to show you guys, there's quite a few of my garlic that is completely cured. This is something I've not mentioned. So there was, I think 3 or 4 videos back, I said I was curious to see if I would have ruined my garlic. It's fine. So we had a lot of rain, a lot of humidity, and I went outside one day and the garlic was quite damp to the touch feeling. So I brought it all inside, put it in my herb hanger, and then from today, it's been like 3 weeks since then, and a good amount of them are completely dry, but there were a handful of them that probably just need a good few days outside. So I went ahead and got the rest of my red onions. These have been curing outside for about 2 weeks, and they seem Like, they're good. Most of these are pretty tiny, so I'll be using a lot of these in the next few weeks anyway. I put some of the garlic outside just to dry for a few more days, along with all of my white onions that I harvested the other day. I did not show you guys that, but honestly, it wasn't too crazy. I harvested the onions and they are curing on my porch for the next like 3 or 4 weeks. I had quite a bit of good luck with yellow onions. I believe they're Spanish yellow, if I remember right. But either way, I am most pumped this year about garlic and onions. Like, that by far is the most used item in my kitchen, and this was the first year for me growing both. So honestly, I'm pretty impressed for what I was able to accomplish so far this year with garlic and onions.